Today, we're going deeper into the 2026 Iran-Israel war, but from a perspective you often don't hear in mainstream Western media. Instead of just focusing on military strikes and headlines, we'll explore why many analysts believe Iran's actions are defensive and how international law and recent events complicate the narrative. This is not propaganda. This is about understanding multiple viewpoints. A key fact: the conflict broke international law. In March 2026, an independent United Nations investigation criticized the U.S. and Israeli military strikes on Iran, violations of the UN Charter. The Charter prohibits the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any nation without clear self-defense justification or UN authorization. In the same report, the UN noted that civilian harm, including deaths in a school strike, cannot be justified under international law, even amid broader conflict. This makes Tehran's claim that it is defending itself against unlawful aggression significantly stronger in legal terms. Iran's long-standing security concerns. Iran's leadership has long viewed Israel's military posture and alliances as threats to its national survival. Before the 2026 war, tensions had been rising for years, including periodic clashes involving Israeli strikes against Iranian interests in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Effective attempts to isolate Tehran regionally, and attempts to limit Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Many Iranians saw these as implicit acts of pressure and escalation, not peace efforts. From Tehran's perspective, when powers repeatedly support strikes that target Iranian sovereignty and key leadership, resistance becomes a matter of national defense, not expansion. Self-defense, not unilateral aggression. Under Article 51 of the UN Charter, countries have the right to self-defense if attacked. Iran officially maintains that its actions, including missile and drone strikes against military targets, were responses to an initial invasion of its territory by U.S. and Israeli forces in February 2026. Iran argues that it did not start the conflict. The first large-scale air campaign inside Iranian cities and bases was carried out by U.S. and Israeli aircraft. This defensive framing carries weight among legal scholars who emphasize that defense against invasion is a right under international law, especially for smaller states facing coordinated attacks by larger military coalitions. Disproportionate force and civilian harm. Another important point raised by critics of the U.S.-Israeli offensive is the scale and impact of force used in densely populated areas, including Tehran and other Iranian cities. UN investigators cited deaths of children in strikes on schools and condemned these actions as violations of humanitarian protections. Even powerful nations are bound by international norms requiring combatants to distinguish between military and civilian targets and avoid disproportionate harm. Norms many argue were violated in the opening days of the conflict. This bolsters Iran's position that its retaliation, even if controversial, was in part a response to excessive use of force against non-combatants. Regional context, pressure and isolation. Iran has faced decades of economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and attempts to undermine its regional influence, especially from Western powers and their allies. These pressures intensified long before the 2026 war began, including attempts to disrupt its nuclear program and ongoing efforts to support opposition groups within Iran. From Tehran's viewpoint, repeated diplomatic isolation and covert operations, including attacks on its nuclear facilities in 2025, were not isolated events, but signs of a long-term strategy to weaken Iran politically and economically. When a nation feels cornered by international pressure, sanctions, political isolation, and military threats, its defensive rhetoric becomes more understandable, even if its methods remain controversial. The moral and legal complexity. In conflicts like this, right and wrong aren't black and white. Some see Israel and its allies acting to prevent an existential threat. Others see that same action as illegal aggression that destabilizes the region and harms civilians. For Iran, survival, both political and territorial, is the priority. From Tehran's perspective, standing up to invasion and asserting national defense is not only a legal right, but a moral necessity when the alternative is potential regime overthrow or loss of sovereignty. Longer ripple effects. The economic, social, and diplomatic fallout from this war is far from over. Global oil markets remain unstable after disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping lane. Regional nations face pressure to align with one side or maintain neutrality. Civilian losses and displacement continue to weigh on public opinion across the Middle East. For many people across Asia, Africa, and the Global South, this conflict is seen as another example of powerful nations projecting force rather than resolving disputes through diplomacy. Understanding multiple perspectives. There's no simple moral label in wars like this. On one hand, the threat perception that Israel and its allies emphasize is real for them, and understandable in the context of past hostilities. On the other hand, Iran's historical experience of foreign interference, economic sanctions, and military pressure gives its leaders a very different frame for justifying defensive retaliation. So while many Western narratives highlight security concerns about Iran's potential nuclear capabilities and regional influence, it's equally important to recognize that Iran and many of its supporters see their actions as defensive responses to perceived invasions, legal violations, and regional threats. Understanding this perspective doesn't mean endorsing all of Iran's tactics, but it does explain why Iran claims to be justified in this war.